Now he's coming to the plate. The throw to Berra. He steals it.
Swung on and missed. A perfect game.
You can put it on the board. Yes.
And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another brand new episode of the High Heater Podcast. It is week 4 since we got it started. Week 3.5 of baseball season is over with, and we've had a lot more crazy things happen. And getting back into it, in case you guys don't know who we are by now, we are an MLB talk podcast. We are filled with a network collaboration from the Unhinged Sports Network with the guys. We have Jimmy Pilato from Far End of the Bench, Mitchell Kaminsky from the Dorm Room Dispute Podcast, and Jim Mounier from the J-Dash Show and founder of the Unhinged Sports Network. And guys, it's been a crazy week. And first of all, we got to give congratulations to Mitchell, who just had his first ever career Grand Slam in a real-life baseball game. Yeah. Does this change your moment of time for your favorite baseball memory?
Definitely changes it. And it's funny, too, because I started the game 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. So the third at-bat come up, a little bit of pressure now. It's like you can't be wearing the golden sombrero on the day. And took it opposite field. And, it carried a little bit farther than I thought it would. So.
Hey, Power Alley is always oppo. That's something I always learned. So that's congratulations, man. And since we're starting with you, we'll go ahead and get right into it. Talking about MLB, what's the thing? Obviously, you're a White Sox fan, so your White Sox had a pretty good week. And I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more later too. But really, over the last week, what has caught your attention from this White Sox team so far?
The inability to score with runners in scoring position. And this has actually been like throughout the MLB, numbers have been down, which made me feel a little bit better about it. And it might just be the weather. But this is a team that came into the season. We were expecting a big offense. And obviously, Eloy Jimenez leaving the lineup puts a big hole there. But you still have a bunch of boppers up and down the lineup. So the fact that they're averaging 2 runs a game or whatever, it's not going to cut it. So that was a little disappointing to see. But pitching staffs, they've been turning the corner. So, I mean, obviously Carlos Rodon, who we're going to get into later, that was a fun story to see. But the lack of hitting with runners in scoring position, little frustrating. That's my big takeaway.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That was one during Jim and I's color cast of the Blue Jays Yankees game on opening day. That was a big talking point in that one too. There were about 15 runners left in scoring position in that game alone. And if the Yankees had about 9 of them alone, and that could have changed the outcome easily. But man, we're glad you're back. And then congratulations again. It's glad to have you back. We have a full cast again for once again. So moving on, Jimmy from the Far End of the Bench podcast. Jimmy, obviously, as we talk about, you're a Yankees fan, but you also follow the Rockies. It has not been that great for you, as one guy we'll talk about a little bit later on. Jay Bruce is retiring now officially after losing to the Rays yet again. So how do you feel about your teams this week? What has caught your attention from your teams this week?
Honestly, it's just how cold the bad teams right now are very bad. The Yankees are 5-10, the Rockies are 4-12. I think they have a combined plus minus of minus. Let's see, the Rockies are at -10 and the Yankees are at -9, so -19 total. It's not been fun to watch baseball so far this year, and it's frustrating too. The fact that the Yankees are -9 with as much money as they put into their batting order, and we all know that they could score 9 runs. Everybody on that lineup can hit a home run, and they could score 9 runs in an inning. It's not going anyway like that. It's incredible to see how disheveled they are. It's going to take a miracle just to get yourself back up and even in competition for maybe a wild card spot, because you're falling behind. I mean, I know it's really early, but if you fall too far behind Boston or Tampa Bay, who has shown out strong, even Baltimore's looked good at times. The Yankees are the one team that hasn't really looked good in a series yet. They've won some games, but they haven't been dominating. They're not a World Series contender like they were coming into the beginning of the season.
Yeah, definitely. As you mentioned, they haven't really been dominant in that East, and which is surprising because you look at that lineup and you're like, okay, they should be fine. I have them ranked as one of my top pitching staffs, and they're letting me down consistently.
This is the first time I saw this stat today on social media. It's the first time the Yankees are last in the AL East since 1968. They are. I think they might be last in the entire American League. Maybe that's what it is. First time they're last in the American League since 1968.
That just tells you how bad things have been in the Bronx right now. I mean, we don't need to dwell on that one too much. And I'm not even going to make you talk about the Rockies because you hit me up with a DM one day telling me that it was like Madison Bumgarner was being rocked by a bunch of little leaguers who were the Rockies, and I felt that pain because it's a bunch of little leaguers rocking Madison Bumgarner, but like the next day they're still little leaguers.
Yeah, no, that was bad. Just because it was the Diamondbacks and the Rockies. I didn't even get one good team out of it. It ended up being a competitive game, but yeah, no, baseball's not been fun so far. Just like how football wasn't fun at all, baseball has not been fun either.
Don't worry. Hopefully both of those will turn around soon. You have the draft coming up soon for NFL, so that'll change something. And then obviously we got the dog days still to come. Those are the times teams will turn it around, hopefully. And now to the other side of the AL East, the top of the division, a guy who supports the ugliest colored uniforms in the bigs, in these Bruin colored Boston Red Sox uniforms, where they've won in both games they've worn them so far. I don't understand it, but yeah, Jim, what is going on with the Red Sox right now?
Alex Cora. That's the answer. This guy is the same. This is basically the same roster as last year. This team has grit. This team's finding ways to win. When you have a 40-man roster and they're each and every day you got another clutch guy, you have something there. And yeah, it's very early, but Joe Castiglione on WEEI the other day stated that, actually it was last night, that 9 of the last 10 AL East teams that reached 10 wins first won the division. The only team that didn't do it was the Baltimore Orioles in 2014 when they were the first team to 10 wins the division and ended up being, I think, second to last place. So far, it's great. I look at the standings. I know right now the White Sox are giving it to the Red Sox in the doubleheader, but the White Sox are a good team. They're honestly, the record's not what is going to be at the end of the year. But right now, if you look at the AL East and I look at the standings, we have a 1-week lead over the New York Yankees, and that's nice. And I think I didn't expect this like 2 weeks ago. That's like we're going to be like 6-10, 8-8, and the Yankees are going to be in our position. I'm surprised. But one thing I didn't know is about the Yankees, and on MLB.com they said if you have a full roster that swings for the fences and they're not hitting the fences, you're going to strike out a lot. And they lead the majors of strikeouts, and it's not helping them. And as a Red Sox fan, it makes me happy that they're suffering, but that roster is too good to be right where they're at right now. And I don't think the Yankees are going to stay down there. I think they're going to still come up. But right now, I got to enjoy it while it lasts. First place in the American League, first place in the AL East. It's nice, but it won't last long. So I just got to enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, no, the one thing, as I mentioned, the dog days of summer, especially in the AL East, a bunch of blacktops surrounding those stadiums. And if you don't know anything about science, warm air is created by hot blacktops, and balls fly further in warm air, and especially the warm air in New York. So be ready for that. The Yankees can easily make a comeback right there. And now you said, I got to go back to this because you said this is basically the same roster, and I got to just prove you wrong because right now, the guy's doing the most damage for you, Marwin Gonzalez and Kike Hernandez.
Marwin Gonzalez without the trash can, by the way.
And Kike Hernandez not wearing a Dodgers uniform.
Yeah.
Although he is wearing UCLA colors when he does his most damage.
Bring LA with you. But Kike was actually in an interview the other day. He's like, it took him about 3 or 4 days to get used to in Fenway because he was used to 80 degrees and dry humidity. And you go up to Fenway, it's 27 and snowing and batting practice. So it took a while to get used to it. And of course, the radio announcer's like, get ready in August when it's going to be 98 and 80% humidity. You're going to be wishing you were back in LA. So it's Kike. I'm actually pretty impressed with him. But the guy who I'm very stunned about, honestly, is Verdugo. That dude has been clutch so far this season, and he's not Mookie, but he's a good asset. I thought he was just going to be on the roster for a couple of weeks. We're going to trade him away. He's turned out to be something, and hopefully he gets better as the season progresses.
Yeah, he's been a vast improvement for my fantasy baseball team as I'm now going 2-0 on the season, which toot my own horn on that one.
I'm on too. So.
It extends my entertainment so far in this early baseball season. The Giants are actually over 500 for the first time since I can remember. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm actually over here celebrating half the time, and I don't know what to do with that.
Really, in second, right?
Yeah, they're 9-6 right now. So, and yeah, I'll take it at this point in time.
Stop the count. Season's over. You
No, it's over. Take me to the World Series. We're going to the World Series, guys. This is jump on the train. 9-6 team in the World Series. That's what's happening. But no, so moving forward, guys, we're going to jump to Around the Horn, obviously presented by Fanatics.com. If you guys haven't checked it out already, Fanatics.com, you get all your gear for your season. It's obviously only the third week of the season. Time to get some gear, get ready. And if you're like Jimmy, you got to go get your new shirt, your lucky shirt for the Yankees or the Rockies. If you're like Jim, you're just going to get a hat to go with your lucky t-shirt. And if you're like Mitch, you're probably going to have to try to find a lucky hat to go with the one that you wore for the Carlos Rodon no-hitter. So you got to go find a new one there. For maybe get Dylan Cease a no-hitter hat soon.
Yeah, we need some help there. He's making me look like a jackass with his early starts, but we'll turn it around.
Absolutely. But to talk about the White Sox, as I just mentioned, Carlos Rodon, 2 outs away from a perfect game. So he has to settle for a no-hitter. Oh, no, what a shame. Giving the White Sox the historically league-leading most number of no-hitters ever. I mean, come on. Like, Carlos Rodon, could he do anything wrong this night? Really? Like, let's be honest with it. Jimmy, I'm going to start with you because you were the one that actually gave me the stat that the White Sox have the most no-hitters.
They're second behind the Dodgers. Dodgers have 23 and White Sox have 20.
Oh, my apologies. But so, Jimmy, go ahead. What do you see about the Carlos Rodon stuff?
It was impressive, especially this early on in the season. Just looking at he threw 114 pitches, which in April is probably like I would not have wanted to bend his elbow the next day. And they say one of his final pitches hit 98.8, which is as hard as he's thrown in the last 5 years. So he really brought it, and you can kind of tell that he was in that moment. We were talking before Mitch even got here before we started recording, and it's just the White Sox somehow find a way to get a no-hitter at least once a season, it seems like. And every time they do, it's all over the media. Anytime a White Sox pitcher gets a no-hitter, everybody knows about it. I can vividly remember Mark Burley, and I think it was against the Rangers, just some middle of the season, like middle of June game, and I still remember watching that. So it's cool now, and we'll see what he's able to do. I feel like that'd be pretty taxing on an arm or this early on in the season, though. So yeah, I'm kind of flipping
because of it. Because like exactly what you said, with the 114 pitches coming off the surgeries and everything, they're taking it easy and giving him a couple extra days.
Yeah, we're kind of flipping on what we've said the last 2 weeks, where we're don't rely so heavily on analytics, but take the guy out before he throws 114 pitches in a no-hitting effort. It would have been cool to see him get the perfect game, but this is, I mean, I can honestly say that the amount of concentration to be able to throw a no-hitter is still worth talking about and worth, celebrating a little bit. Yeah,
definitely. And now, Mitch, this is obviously a moment for you that you're like, all right, this is the guy that you already kind of think is going to have a really good year. Obviously not the number one for the White Sox, but he's like a 1B essentially. And as you mentioned, coming off the surgeries, did you think Carlos Rodon would have the stuff to throw a no-hitter this soon coming after surgeries?
Well, this soon, probably not. I mean, he was set up to have a better year than past years just because this is the first time he doesn't have ace expectations on him. Because here's a guy, he gets drafted out of North Carolina State. He led he set a school record in strikeouts. He gets picked 3rd overall, and the White Sox, they're like, this is going to be the future ace. They rushed him up to the big leagues, and he had some early success with the White Sox. I think his rookie season, he was second most in White Sox history for strikeouts. So everyone's like, okay, we see the foundations in place, but he can never stay healthy. So that was always disappointing for him. I know, obviously not staying on the field, and some of the performances, like his last start in a White Sox uniform last season in 2020 was in the playoffs, and he came in out of the bullpen and he had a terrible outing and it cost the White Sox a game. So obviously he didn't like the way that ended. They non-tendered him and he had a chip on his shoulder heading into this season. So now with the no pressure, I think he's had to earn everything this year. He had to earn the job in training camp. It's a great story overall, first and foremost, but he's always had the stuff to do it. And if he can stay healthy, I think we see it. We saw it in spring training. He was working with Ethan Katz and getting his lower half more involved because a lot of times, and that's why he had a lot of the arm problems. He would be throwing with all arm, and now he's kind of driving with his legs more, which has helped. His first start in Seattle through 5 scoreless innings too. He looked great in spring training, and so while obviously you're not going to have the enchanted no hitter stuff every night, I think this is a real Carlos Rodon. If he stays healthy, he could be in for a fantastic season this year. So I'm very happy for him. And also his post-game interview, that's got to be like one of the chillest interviews I've ever seen for a guy that just threw a no-hitter.
Go about my business. But no, to your point, like you talk about how he's always had the stuff, just never been healthy enough. He's only thrown one complete game up until this point in his career as in the major leagues. 93 starts in the majors, one complete game. That's absolutely insane to think about from a guy who has number one stuff regularly.
Yeah.
And you talk about 2015 was his rookie season. And he's only thrown in 93 games since 2015. And that's also just another like, whoa, what? It's a very unique thing to talk about it with Rodon and just how he's never really been able to keep the injury bug away from him.
And what impressed me the most, and Jimmy alluded to it earlier, he threw harder as the game went along, which usually you're past 100 pitches in the 9th inning, but he started the game mid-90s, and then he finished near like 99. We always knew he could throw hard because he's a mid-90s guy, but the fact he touched 99 was like, whoa, that's kind of impressive. It's a shame that the pitch that ended the perfect game bid was a good pitch too. Like I think that was the right pitch to throw. It is the backdoor slider, and unfortunately hit the toe, but
yeah. Ironically, against the catcher for the other team. It's just
right after they just made a great play at first base. Because that was like every no-hitter has that one defensive play where it's like the Dwayne Wise catch. And Jose Abreu made a great sliding play at first base. It's like, all right, everything's aligning here. That was kind of funny how that unfolded.
Absolutely. Now, Jim, I want to take it to you, and I'm going to ask you a little bit different side of this question for you. Can you compare Carlos Rodon's no-hitter to that of Dallas Braden back in 2010? Do you think they're very similar in the fact that this guy is coming off injury, just like Dallas Braden was? Obviously, Dallas Braden did it on Mother's Day. And then from there, you then take it, and if you look at their similarity scores, they each are in the top 7 of similarity scores for the no-hitters. Like, they are eerily similar in the way they panned out and were played, because they were both close to a perfect game, 2 outs away, and you lose the perfect game, you get a no-hitter at the end of the day. But will Carlos Rodon be able to be better in this season than Dallas Braden was in 2010, in your opinion?
Yeah. He has a better roster around him right now. And he has a better pitching staff behind him, too. So he pitchers, no matter what position, if they're starters, third day starter, fourth day starters, if they can trust their bullpen, they play looser. And the better teams do. Dallas Braden, I don't remember who was on that staff, but I do know that Oakland was struggling most of the time that season when he did that no-hitter. And because it's so early in the season right now, Rodon, pretty impressive. I don't care what you say. And you get his no taken away, and they're like, oh, well, I just did a perfect game. What to do? It just tells you that he was that close. And honestly, I say that Dallas Braden moment was bigger because it was on a holiday, more TV, more people around. But I think Rodon has an overall body of work, and for the 2021 season, I think he will be a better pitcher than Braden as the season progresses.
All right. I respect that, actually, because I love Dallas Braden in that 2010 season. He was one of the better pitchers that year overall.
Love his podcast.
Yeah, I mean, he's a decent podcast. Whatever. Not going to give him too much credit. He's a competition for what we're doing here. So don't want to give him too much love, but we respect Dallas Braden over here. But it's just eerily similar to when he threw that perfect game, and and that just the stats and everything beside each other. Now I just want to get a quick thought on you guys' opinions. Will Carlos Rodon throw a complete game any other time this season? Jimmy, let's start with you on this.
Once he kind of proves that, I think he's got to prove it to the coaching staff again. But like Mitch was saying, they're probably going to take the saddle off him a little bit. He's probably going to have a fixed amount of innings that he's going to be pitching in the next few outings that he has. Once he gets past that and he proves that he's good to go, going 7 and plus and not losing anything, not putting too much strain on his arm, I don't see why you wouldn't leave him in, and he could probably, find this again, get another complete game. But it's going to take a little bit more doing. This was a good first step, but it's only just a first step. You still got to continue to show the coaches, I'm moving in the right direction. This wasn't just a one-time thing. Basically, consistency. Consistency for pitchers is everything. So just consistency. That's all he's got to do. And I could see him throwing another complete game. And who knows, it's the White Sox, maybe another no-hitter.
Yeah. Now, let me add on to that and ask, will he make an all-star team this year?
Oh, man.
I know I'm serving up the tough questions for you today.
Yeah. The all-star, he's going to be, if the team starts winning a little bit and stays more towards the top of the division of the AL Central, I could see that a little bit more. So just because people start, he threw a no-hitter earlier on in April, and then he comes back and throws like 3 7+ inning outings and giving up, has a low enough ERA to qualify, definitely. But I think the team is going to have to dictate that more than just Rodon himself. Yeah. He doesn't have a big enough name to just get voted into the All-Star game.
Definitely. Now, Mitch, that's the double goes for you. Do you think he throws a complete game the rest of the season and All-Star game potential?
Yeah, I actually think the All-Star game is more likely than another complete game, just because of how Tony La Russa likes to use the bullpen a lot. He likes, from what I've seen early on, he likes to pull starters sooner rather than later. He doesn't really let them hang around all that often, which I'm not a huge fan of. But I mean, it's possible. I just don't see it. But if he keeps pitching the way he's pitching, he's got a 0 ERA. I mean, it's hard to leave a guy that's threw no hitter at that low of an ERA out of an All-Star game. So we'll see. I mean, but they're right. He doesn't have like the name recognition where, like, if he's a fringe candidate, he probably won't get in, but he's got the stuff to do so, and I think the stars are kind of aligning for him this year.
Yeah, definitely. Jim, what about you? What's your thoughts? Does he throw a complete game this season, or does he make an All-Star team?
Does he throw another complete season? The odds of that happening are very slim, so I'm going to say no. Does he make the All-Star game? He's going up against a lot of great pitching staffs in the American League. Like what Mitch said, it's going to come down to a fringe candidate, maybe an injury or two, but his name could get him in there. But right now, if you gave me the starting 5 pitching rotation, the starting 5 pitchers to get into the All-Star game, I say he's the 5th one because he has that no. So
he literally has no-hit stuff. You can actually say it.
Pretty much,
it this season. Yeah. So, yeah. It's just really interesting with Carlos Rodon, as we've all talked about, as Mitch definitely hit on. He's so injury-prone. It's such a unique story for him to come back from injury this soon and throw a no-hitter. And now you kind of look at it towards the rest of the season. It's so early in the season. It's like, how much does this affect him down the road will be the big question for him as well. It's a very curious thing, and that's something I'm sure we'll follow all seasons, because especially having a White Sox fan on the panel, it makes things a little easier to follow along with some of the teams that don't normally get covered a lot on major mainstream baseball, Sunday night baseball, Monday night baseball all the time. So although the White Sox this year, different story. But speaking of teams that get covered all the time on ESPN, the Padres and Dodgers met up for their one of 19 games this season, and it's been a very interesting series this weekend. On Saturday, benches cleared in extras in the 10th inning. It went to a 14-inning game, the first extra innings game to go over 10 innings, by the way. Ends in 14. And then the next day, talk about crazy things that just happen in only NL West matchups, it feels like, as another crazy thing happens in an NL West matchup involving the Dodgers. Jurickson Profar got a check swing, makes contact with the catcher's mitt. Originally called a strikeout by the catcher. After review, they did dictate it to be catcher's interference, and Jurickson Profar was given first. Clayton Kershaw was a pitcher on the mound, and he did not take too kindly to that. He called it a expletive swing. It's a 5-letter word, and it starts with a B, also named for a female dog, if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about. And basically cussed out Jurickson Profar the entire time he was at the mound against the next batter. So very entertaining stuff. But is this what we expect from the Padres-Dodgers series all season long? Is this exactly how chippy it's going to be? Or do we think we're going to see some games that are just like whatever or out of this, or is this going to be the rest of the 17 matchups? Is this what we're going to see? Mitch, I want to start with you on this.
Oh, absolutely. I think both these teams, they know that their biggest competition in the NL, let alone their division, is each other. So all these games have playoff implications. They want to be the division crown winner. So yeah, I think it's going to be tested. They just met in the playoffs last year. So the rivalry's been brewing, and I think this is good for the sport of baseball. I'm happy to see it. But yeah, I expect a lot more fireworks throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely.
And you got guys like Manny Machado too, and Fernando Tatis and Trevor Bauer that they're only going to pour fuel on the fire, if you will, because it's some big personalities in that series too, which helps.
Yeah, and you mentioned Machado, who has played now on both sides of this budding rivalry. And that's a unique take on it. And you mentioned Trevor Bauer, who has, before we were going on air, Jim was mentioning Trevor Bauer talking smack. And as I said, Trevor Bauer will talk crap to literally a rock if he gets the opportunity to, just for the rock rolling the wrong direction. That's just Trevor Bauer as he is. So, yeah, it's going to be a very unique series for sure. Jim, what are your thoughts on this? What's up?
It makes for good YouTube content. So that's
why Bauer Outage is a top running podcast for a reason. That is for sure. But Jim, what did you see out of this series? Do you think this is exactly how it's going to be, or do you think we're going to get into a little craziness? And is this one to watch as we all expected preseason for implications of the playoffs?
Yes, this is what you're going to see for 24 games this year. Why 24? Because they're going to meet in the divisional round of the playoffs and go 5 games. This is what you need. This is the rivalry. This is how you start it. And earlier today on Sunday, Trevor Bauer struck out Trevor Tatis and basically lip read to him, like, sit your fucking ass down. Excuse my language. While banging his chest. I'm like, oh, that's great. Trevor Bauer, we're going to have multiple brawls. We're going to have people getting suspended. And you got, on one side, you got Machado, and on the other side, you got Tatis, or the same side, you got Tatis, you got Bauer. It's the energy and the feel of a rivalry. This is Veritek versus A-Rod with the Red Sox and Yankees era. This is where you see the hatred between the two teams. And you got to love it. Hey, we know for our first show here, these two teams are going to battle for that division. These two teams, most likely, whoever wins the division is going to the World Series out of this division. So it's going to be, like we said before, must-see television, and it's, starting off just like it. And we got 17 more plus playoffs. Yeah, so I'm ready for it.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. I like everything you said, except for the fact that this is guaranteed that the team that wins this matchup is the team that goes from this division. Obviously, NL West fan over here. I can't fully support that statement, but I understand your sentiment. It hurts me a little bit.
Oh, sorry about your Giants, by the way. Apologize.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. And Jimmy, what about you, man? What did you see in this series? Is this what you expected? Is this everything you hoped it could be?
It is for now. It's going to be interesting. If you got to keep the season series close if you want to continue to call this a rivalry. LA's up 2-0 2-0 in the series right now. They're tied 2-2 in the bottom of the 8th as we're recording this. If the Padres don't at least keep pace, and it's not Dodgers 5 in a row and then the Padres get the 6th game where nobody plays in LA. So I think that the Padres have a lot to prove in this series, but that's why I think we saw the benches clear. I think the Padres definitely want to send a message to the Dodgers, because the Dodgers have just been beating the crap out of everybody. They're 13-2 in 15 games. And they did some things to the Rockies without the Rockies' consent over the weekend. And it was, they just didn't have an answer for it. The Dodgers are that good. They've been touted as that good. They have some injuries now, and they're going to get better when those injured players come back. So if the Padres can keep up with the Dodgers, sure, this will be a rivalry. If not, by like game 10, if it's a 9-1, 8-2 in favor of the Dodgers, I feel like this is going to fizzle out just as quick. Just San Diego's not a huge baseball market. That's not one of your big market teams.
Yeah, no, definitely. They've always struggled to sell Petco out, even in some of their best seasons. And you think back to old Qualcomm Stadium and the old palm trees in center field, the fake palm trees in center field that they used to put up there, and never being able to sell at that stadium because that was a 70,000 seat football stadium. But you did mention something very interesting there. If this gets to a midsummer point and it is like very skewed one way or the other, do we think that it is let's say they do meet in the divisional round, like Jim is saying, in the NLDS. If a team has such a huge season lead on them, is it like where you talk about in football? Is it hard to win 3 over them? Is it hard to take the whole regular season series plus the playoff series over them? Or does it just continue the trend in your guys' eyes? And Mitch, I want to start back with you on this one.
Well, the playoffs are a whole new ball game, but baseball is such a mental sport. I feel like if you dominate a season series, that's going to be tough to overcome because you're already heading in with the fact like, oh wow, I don't know if we can beat these guys. But it's one of those things where it all depends because it's managed a lot differently in October. Starters are not going as long. There's a lot more bullpens being used. It's a lot harder to hit home runs because the weather's getting colder. So it's tough to say, to be completely honest. I don't think we need to worry about that because I think it's going to be a very close season series, and I think it'll be a very close postseason series when they inevitably do meet. But yeah, I mean, we'll see, I guess.
Yeah. Now, Jim, what about you? What are your thoughts on it?
I agree with Mitch. It's going to be a close series. We're only first 2 games in here, and usually the season dictates the long, marathon that is the Major League Baseball season, no matter who it is. And in the playoffs, I don't care if you won the season series 11-8, you're 0-0 in game 1. And if you're the road team, you want to steal home field. If you're the home team, you want to secure it. So playoffs are a different beast. Pitching, temperature. I don't think they're going to worry about the temperature down in Southern California. I think that's going to still be pretty good. But
yeah, you're fine.
But still, the postseason is a different beast than game 86 in July. So
yeah, no matter what, postseason in Southern California is always going to be 75 and slightly breezy, especially in Chavez Ravine. In Petco, it's going to be 75. Just flat out 75. Yeah. There's going to be no breeze, but there is 75. Period.
Year round 75.
Yeah, exactly. Jimmy, now what about you? You kind of did present this argument to be made. I mean, if in your eyes, you've experienced this as a football fan, seeing the sort of big brother, little brother mentality that it could cause, but at the same time, winning 3 in a row and sweeping a regular season versus postseason series is a lot more difficult. Is that in your eyes, or are you kind of agreeing with the rest of the crew here?
No, I definitely think it's different when you look at the MLB compared to the NFL in that way. Funny enough, the thing that I could see happening if there is kind of a skewed season series, if the Dodgers do come and just kind of, work the Padres over in their season series, maybe the Dodgers just think that they're able to beat them no matter what. It is going to be totally different by the time the playoffs come around. It's still early, so early on in the season, guys are getting into their groove. And by the time you get to the playoffs, you know what works, what you got to do. And you're not going to be getting these 11-6 run scores. You're going to have to start winning the 2-1, 3-2 pitchers duels. And it's going to be, I see it as possibly a detriment to a team if they do dominate a season series to come up and get surprised in the playoffs a little bit.
All right. I like that. I that thought process. I'm always one for watching the Dodgers lose, so obviously sign me up for watching them lose in the playoffs. It sounds
you're going to be disappointed this season.
Yeah, probably. I mean, they literally were my preseason pick for World Series champions, and that hurt me to even write that down in a blog. But here we are. I've accepted my own pride and swallowed it whole. It's not fun. I don't like it. But speaking of very prideful players, and probably one of the smartest players to ever play, Joey Votto. He himself just turned a triple play this weekend versus the Indians, the 31st overall for the Reds to turn in overall triple plays they've ever turned, and the first since 2017 when they turned it against the Yankees and ironically against Todd Frazier, who was at bat at the time. Now, if you guys didn't catch this triple play, Joey Votto did something very interesting. He caught the ball, dove back to first to get the first 2 outs, and it was in the air. And then while that happened, there was a man on third, and he ran home. Joey Votto didn't immediately get up and do anything. He just kind of sat and watched. Man scored, touched home plate. Then he walked over to the home plate umpire. He's like, did I catch that in the air? He's like, yeah, I caught it in the air. And he just flips it over to third base, tags third base for the third out. A very unique triple play in terms of triple plays we normally see. Is this one of the more heads-up triple plays we've ever seen where he kind of like baited no matter what, that runner's going to be out because he's off the field to play at this point in time and never tagged up? Or is this just kind of one of those things that it's just a fluke play that we'll never see really the same similarity again. Jim, what's your thoughts on this?
Couple of thoughts. Bad base running. You're in the major leagues, and you should notice if a ball's caught. 2, had great heads up by Joey Votto. And 3, good job on the umpire getting the play correct. That's one thing that's amazing about this. The umps actually called the right thing. We need to talk about that in another episode, but I think it's just complete correlation between the 3. It's Votto knew he left. The base runner just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to run. Like, come on, dude, really? But you got to give credit where credit's due. I think it was just great, ball handling, awareness for Votto. Good ump awareness because these umps are crazy, and bad base running. Plus, will we see it again? Triple plays happen. They're rare, but they happen more often than no hitters, in my opinion. So it could possibly happen again, yes. But this type of one, I don't think so. This was just 3 things had to happen to make it work.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the umpires actually not needing replay on this one was very rare in today's game. Let's just put it that way. Jimmy, what about you? What's your thoughts on this? Was this just a heads-up play by Votto, or was it just bad base running and kind of a combination of everything?
This was such a savvy play. I mean, I agree with Jim. Base runners should, if you see a ball in the air and it doesn't hit the ground, it's obviously in somebody's glove, go back and touch your base. But the fact that, he knew the kid was excited because he saw the ball hit and just waited for him to make a mistake. He didn't even really have to do anything. Just waited for him to, there's your rope. Go hang yourself with it, and I'll be over here in the corner. I'll take credit when it happens. But it was a savvy play to just kind of sit there and let him make the mistake that he was going to. But then to recognize I got never tagged up because, when you're in this situation, if you get a hot shot hit towards you or, anything like that, you can kind of take your mind off of everybody else on the field. He was still able to catch the ball and then recognize, oh, my BS meter's going off. He's going home. He didn't touch the bag. Okay, go ahead, get your little exercise in, and you're out. Go sit on the bench, and that run doesn't count. I put a lot of credit onto Votto understanding the situation and just kind of letting it play out the way that it did. He really didn't have to do much.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Mitch, I want to ask you this question. This obviously does change a couple things because from the runner standpoint, he's relying on his base coach. Is this a letdown by the base coach more than it is the runner, or is this still just Joey Votto being Joey Votto at the end of the day?
Part of it, yes. I'm gonna chalk it up to Joey Votto being Joey Votto. There's a reason he's been in the league so long. He's a very savvy first baseman. He makes plays like that all the time. This is not the first time we've seen Joey Votto make a high IQ play, but yeah, we're not gonna let the third base coach off the hook here. Obviously, he should have been more aware of this thing too. But props to Joey Votto for taking advantage of it because these base running blunders happen all the time, and there's a lot of times it goes by the wayside because people aren't paying attention or they don't realize what's going on. So he recognized it and he got a big 3 outs for him.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy to see just they always talk about don't make the third out at home, don't make it at second, and a base coach here himself kind of blowing this one. But Jimmy, did you want to add anything to it?
I just think we got to mention too that he made it easier by not doing anything because he could have technically just thrown it home and got the runner in a rundown, but then you put the stress on everything. He took the sure out by just not doing anything.
Yeah, it's just a unique play to see from a guy who, while making a diving play back to first after he caught the ball, was heads up enough to be like, oh yeah, I don't need to waste my arm. I'm 38 anyways. It's okay. I can just chill out over here. But yeah, it was very unique. And then speaking of old guys learning new tricks, 36-year-old Sean Casmar Jr. If you guys don't know who he is, don't worry. Not a lot of people do. He originally made his debut back in August 13th of 2008. Last played in the majors September 23rd, 2008 for the Padres. Was just recently called up by the Braves this season and ended the longest tenure between MLB appearances after coming on as a pinch hitter against the Cubs. It is 12 years and 206 days. Almost 13 years between big league appearances. Spent 16 total seasons in the minors. Some interesting facts about this. 34 players that were in the game of his last appearance. Only Casmar and Wade LeBlanc, who made his fourth start for the Padres, are still remaining in the MLB. The Braves have had over 300 players make at least one appearance for the team. The Dodgers have won the most amount of regular season games, 1,701. Ironically, the first one came in that game against Casmar's Padres. And, again, they beat the Padres for their 1,701st on Saturday in that extra innings game. So, very ironic moment there. Friday night game. And then the Astros were then part of the NL Central when Casmar was first up and last played his game. Now they are obviously part of the AL West in the restructure and have won a World Series. And last but not least,
not stole.
Yeah, slight asterisk next to the World Series. I was waiting on somebody to comment on that one. And then 14 of the 36 players elected to the Hall of Fame since 2008 have played their final games since Casmar's 10 years between big league appearances. Have we heard of a better feel-good story than going 12 years and 206 days between appearances? Or is this just a moment of just grinding it out? Like, what has to be going through this guy's mind? He is 36 years old, dwindling down in AAA this whole career, 16 seasons. Like, what do we expect here when Casmar finally gets called back up? What was happening here? Jimmy, what's your thoughts?
This is the greatest escape since Shawshank Redemption. Like, he waited 12 years, almost 13 years, and crawled through that sewer tunnel and came out on the other side. This is, Disney probably already bought the rights to the movie. It's not going to look a whole lot like the movie Shawshank Redemption, but I'm sure that we're going to be seeing something about this. That's just, hats off to him. If he has a family, hats off to his family for just letting him continue to chase this dream. Because, AAA, you're close, but really you're not that much closer than you are at the lower levels of the minor leagues either. So there was a lot that had to be sacrificed, and that's a lot of time being spent living in the middle of nowhere where these minor league teams are. He deserves all the credit in the world, because I feel like a lot of people after 4 years at AAA not having been called back up, it might be time for a lot of people to just say, you know what, I think I've given it a good enough go, let alone adding another 8 years to that. Geez, good for him. Hopefully he gets more appearances hopefully it doesn't take another 12 years for him to make his next appearance.
Yeah, definitely. Jim, could you imagine going 12 years and 206 days between appearances? What is going through your mind as you're down in AAA this entire time? Do you honestly ever think you're going to get back?
You're muted. We can't.
There we
hear
go.
you, Jim.
There we go. My bad. My mic was muted on this end. You guys say 12 years in the minor leagues. You have to have that thought come through your mind. Am I really in this for the long haul? Do I really want to go through every training camp and every spring ball to just get sent to, Montgomery or Biloxi or Chattanooga? But, some people just love playing minor league baseball. You still get a decent wage. You're not getting Major League Baseball wages, but if you don't know the minor league system, AAA baseball is usually a lot of the rehab starts, and all the prospects playing in AA. So all the prospects go for AA and get sent to the majors, while the rehabs go to AAA. So for him, 36, not giving up, getting back in the majors, 12 years, I would have quit after 4. I was like, I'm done. I'm going to go sell used cars down on 8th Street or something like that. But you got to give credit where credit's due. This guy had the grind. This guy had the will, and he did it. And hats off to him. He finally got back to the majors, and that's good. And I knew I would just give up after like 4 years if I didn't get in. So, yeah.
Yeah, as you mentioned, most players, usually they give them that 4-year mark, and then they're like, all right, I'm going to go be a hitting coach or a pitching coach, or I'll go be a bullpen catcher somewhere. But Mitch, obviously – you're a guy who still plays baseball, so this is like right up your alley. Where if you had to take 12 years and 206 days between 2 appearances in the majors, would you have the mental fortitude to do that? Like, what does that take mentally to do that?
That is so impressive, just because the minor leagues, it stinks. You're traveling on buses everywhere. It's long hours. You're really not getting paid all that well. Sometimes, especially in the lower levels, you're staying with like the host families or whatnot. So 12 years is that long, you would think, especially getting up at that age, you would have to think like, hey, my career's over. What am I doing? So it's almost surreal. Like it's almost like it's straight out of like a movie script. The fact that he was able to make it back. But I know me personally, I would like to think I'd be able to stay with it, but just like realistically, it's probably not. I think most people probably, if you're in a job and you haven't succeeded in what you're trying to accomplish in like 12 years, I feel like most people would probably be moving on to a different thing. So props for him for sticking with it. I hope he does well. I think it's just probably going to be more of a feel-good story than anything else. I don't know about how much of an impact he's going to make, but that is good. Now he's living out his dream in the majors.
Yeah, and he definitely got a pay raise once he signed that major league tenure when he played that first game. Now he is league minimum of like I think it's $500,000 now for however long.
And now it is because like say he was in the majors like earlier, he was some middle of the road player that we're not talking about. Now, even if he is a mediocre major league player, just the fact that it took him so long to get back, his story is that much more noteworthy. So, yeah, I mean, it kind of worked out for him.
So here's my question to you guys. Can we see a movie, a repeat of The Rookie, call it Rookie 2 or Rookie Repeated or however you want to word it? Can this be considered a second rookie season 12 years later? Because he only played in September call-ups, really. He has not played enough games to be considered anything more than a rookie. At 36 years old, can he win Rookie of the Year if he turns himself into a potential candidate? Like, can we make this a movie?
Are we making we're migrating towards the NBA and the NHL here on what constitutes as a rookie? Red. This is a 12-year red shirt, but I feel like everybody knows he's not a rookie. This isn't a rookie anymore.
The only thing I see from this type of movie is the scene from Benchwarmers. The guy says, "How old are you?" "I'm 18," and the guy's drinking tequila and smoking a cigarette. It's like, okay. That's
all I heard when you were Kelsey, when you were going through all those facts, I just kept seeing the scene from Bull Durham where Crash Davis is giving the rookies interview notes. You need to work on your cliches. That's all you got to do. That was his role. You hit white balls in batting practice in the show. What? Yeah, you don't have to carry your own bags.
Yeah, no, this is really true. I mean, it's something out of a movie book, out of a story, or insert Disney storyline here.
It'd be funny too, seeing Double-A hanging out with all these like 20-year-old kids, and they're like, "Who the hell is this old guy with this? Is the new bullpen coach or something?" It's like, no, actually, he's a player too.
Yeah, no, that's not your hitting coach, even though he's giving you instructions.
Yeah.
No, that's actually your first baseman. Like, I'm sorry, that's who you're throwing the ball to get out. It's like, I'm sorry, that's just how it is now. But no, this is an absolutely feel-good story. It's really entertaining to talk about because it's something we don't normally see. We grew up on the movies for it. Like I mentioned, The Rookie being the number one there in that situation. But yeah, that's it's a very unique thing, and maybe Casmar can do something special, and we get a repeat of The Rookie in 5 to 10 years when Disney buys the rights to it. But that'll take us into our break, guys. We're going to take a short break, and you're going to hear from our network sponsors over at Fanatics.com and Fubo TV, and we will be right back. What's up, everybody? It's Kelsey from the High Low Sports Podcast. If you missed the brand new news, we have partnered with Fanatics.com. So if you're in the market for a brand new t-shirt, brand new hoodie, brand new jersey, no matter the team, no matter the player, no matter the sport, Fanatics.com is your place to stop. Not only does this help support our podcast, but it helps support the entire Unhinged Sports Network. Check the link in our bio or go to unhingedsn.com. I'll be having DJ in the High Low Sports Podcast. See ya. What's up, everybody? It's Kelsey from the High Low Sports Podcast, and we recently partnered with Fubo TV. What is Fubo TV? Fubo TV is a service to broadcast live TV over the internet, no cable required. Watch your favorite teams, network shows, news, and movies on over 100 plus channels. You get channels like CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox. You can watch all the games. So go ahead, click that link in our bio, and get started on your 7-day free trial. And stay tuned to some more great programming right here on the Unhinged Sports Network. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as you just heard from Fanatics and Fubo TV, our network sponsors over here at Unhinged Sports Network. If you guys haven't already checked them out, go check it out. The link's in our bios. It's in all of our bios at this point in time. All you got to do is go to our Twitter pages, twitter.com/dormroomdispute/FEOTB pod. at high_low_sports, at J-Show, or Unhinged, or sorry, network at Network Unhinged for the network account. And they're all in our bios. Or just go to unhingedsn.com and you'll see a fancy little link that says partners and you just click it. It's very simple, very easy, straightforward. As I mentioned, go get your new gear. And if you guys haven't checked out Fubo TV yet, cut your cord, join the 21st century. Don't pay those high, outrageous cable bills. Because guess what? Baseball is included on Fubo TV. Why not get it? It's definitely worth the money at that point in time. You can catch all 162 games from your favorite team. So be sure to check that out as well. That link is in our bios as well. Now, we did have some more major storylines that have popped up recently. As we look at Max Scherzer, now passing Cy Young, ironically enough, for 22nd most in total career Ks at 2,808 now. And then Shane Bieber also broke a record held by a long-standing, well, actually, it's just been a long-standing record. First 4 games of his outing this season with at least 10 Ks in each of his 4 starts. First time since 1893. 1893. Like literally almost 200 plus years ago. This is ridiculous. We're stretching the timeline here. And then the first pitcher since Nolan Ryan, since 1906, to have 48 Ks in his first 4 starts. So Nolan Ryan did it, and he did a 9 strikeout appearance in one of his first 4 games. That's why he's not part of the at least 10 Ks in his first 4 starts. But this brings up a bigger question towards any of these pitchers currently active. Obviously, Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, those are probably your top 2 active pitchers at this point in time. There's some guys that trail behind them. But are there any pitchers that are right now in the game that we can ever have that conversation of he's on the level of Cy Young, he's on the level of what Nolan Ryan was, or he's on this level? What do we have any pitchers that you guys see that maybe they're young, maybe they're just starting out, maybe they're the end of their career, the middle of their career, but do we have any that you would put them in that conversation, and by the end of their career, where do you think you have them ranked? And Mitch, I just want to start with you on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacob Degrom, I think, would be the easiest one. And I don't think people realize how good he is because the Mets have always kind of screwed him because of the second team in New York. So obviously the Yankees take most of the big headlines. And his win-loss record should be a lot better than what it is just because the Mets never win any of his games, so they don't give enough credit. People always talk about, like, Mike Trout, like, man, it's a travesty. He's wasting his career with the Angels. I think Jacob Degrom's on the same level. If you look at what he does on a daily basis, I think he tied some record for like 9 consecutive strikeouts in a game. It was or 9 or 10. This is what he does like year in and year out, how consistently good he is. I can absolutely see him being in the all-time conversation. And it's kind of tough to, like, with Cy Young and all of them, it's like who is Cy Young really facing? So like it's tough to compare them between eras because it was like a dead ball era, so all the numbers are a lot better in his day. I don't think there's anyone like Nolan Ryan's caliber yet, but I could easily say Jacob Degrom in that conversation. I think Max Scherzer, you could argue in the top 10, 20 conversation just from what he's done throughout his career. And Clayton Kershaw is another guy that I think has been really underrated. He gets knocked for his playoff failures, but now he has a World Series ring, and you look over the course of his career, what he's been able to do. I think that's another guy that you could easily put in with the all-time great conversation.
Yeah, and your point about Jacob Degrom, he struck out 9 straight batters against Colorado on Saturday, which was just one shy of Tom Seaver's 10 straight. Which we talk about Tom Seaver. He's another guy who we could put in this list of great, but not that great type of a pitcher. Like, he's got a bunch of records, but a lot of people are like, oh, Tom Seaver, who? Whereas baseball guys know who Tom Seaver is, but not a lot of outside of baseball people know. But that's kind of what we're looking for, is also the guys outside of baseball who will learn about these guys. And as you mentioned, Jake DeGrom, it's a pretty good one. He's still up and coming. He's still growing into himself and what he can become. Jimmy, what about you? Is there any guy that you see out there that could become that type of name?
I'm glad that Jacob DeGrom got brought up because I see the stat every year. If he gets like 2 runs of support in the games that he's pitched, he only has like 2 losses on his record. If you go back through what the actual losses that get accredited to him, he is, I think he's probably the biggest waste on the team that he's on right now. Him and Stroman being stuck in as the Mets, because Stroman's my favorite player. I'm a big Mike Stud fan, so Yeah, I heard him rapping first and then started watching his baseball career. But yeah, for all-time greats, I guess right now, other than DeGrom, it's super early for everybody else. And the other three that we've mentioned would probably be the only ones that I could see maybe getting close to that legendary status in Kershaw, Verlander, and Max Scherzer. Other than that, I had hope for Strasburg for a little bit just because of the hype train that he had, but he got derailed a bit by injuries. I still remember, I think it was 2008. If you played MLB The Show 08, he was unhittable. If you had Steven Strasburg, he was absolutely just a cheat code. But really, I think it's more difficult to be legendary as a starting pitcher than it is to be legendary as a closing pitcher. Just as we were mentioning it, I was thinking back in my head, and there's a pretty strong case to be made that Mariano Rivera is the best closing pitcher of all time. But there's been a lot of guys who came in and were the next best closer. There's really not a lot of guys that come in that are the next Nolan Ryan. I mean, I think he's probably the last true great starting pitcher that you could always go in and count on. So, yeah, I think we've mentioned all the guys that I would put in that category, and I'm interested to see if some step up because it's still early on for a lot of these guys. I think German Marquez, if he's able to figure himself out, he's a guy that's kind of wasted out here in Colorado. He's got some pretty good stuff. And John Gray, if he's ever able to figure out his headspace, he could be something too. But for now, it's way too early for those guys.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Jim, I do want to just bring it to you as well and see what your thoughts are.
I think Jacob Degrom doesn't get enough credit, but I think he is the ideal candidate to be labeled like a Nolan Ryan. The Mets haven't done crap with him. When he has some of his best games, the Mets are just a no-show. But you got to look at this modern day in baseball. Every pitcher they're throwing harder. They're more velocity. They have more torque on the ball than they did back in Cy Young's days. So you look at the list of the guys that we've already mentioned, like for instance, Chris Sale was on that path until he blew his arm out. Pedro was on his path when he blew his arm out. You had so many pitchers there could be considered the next Nolan Ryan, the next Cy Young, and two Tommy Johns later, they're day 4 starter on the team somewhere. But right now, the guys who we've mentioned, like Strasburg, DeGrom, even Garrett Cole showing signs, Kershaw showing signs. These guys have signs. The problem is can they be consistent, stay healthy, and have 5, 6, 7, 8 years of this? Then they could be in that conversation. Problem is that these guys just keep going and going and going, and they blow their arms out, and that's it. And we've seen clear examples throughout history. But as of right now, I'm leaning more towards DeGrom as the bell horse right now than Bieber and Kershaw, because DeGrom just doesn't have offense when he's on fire. Kershaw, luckily, this last year, he finally got the offense he needed, and he won a championship. So hopefully DeGrom gets that in due time, but I think he's the main guy right now.
Yeah. Now, I do want to point out, like you guys have mentioned, as we mentioned, Verlander, Scherzer, Kershaw, those are the big three, obviously, that we talk about. The most likely ones to be those names. And I just want to throw a couple stats out there for you. So we'll start with Verlander. 2 Cy Youngs, 1 MVP, 8 All-Star selections, 3,006 strikeouts. Highest, by the way, leading strikeout in active pitchers. Max Scherzer, 3 Cy Youngs, 0 MVPs, 7 All-Star selections, 2,692 strikeouts. And then we go over here to Clayton Kershaw and his 3 Cy Young awards, 1 MVP, 8 All-Star selections, and an absolutely insane 67.9 wins above replacement, which is a record, by the way. It's the most wins above replacement that since they've started actually keeping that category from the moment he was a rookie on. And a 1.01 whip as a starter. So we talk about Kershaw, we talk about Verlander, and we talk about Scherzer. If you guys have to pick one, who is your bell cow to ride home on? Mitch, we'll start with you.
Probably Justin Verlander, just for how long he's tormented me in the AL Central. So I know what he can do when he's at his best. And he's always performed pretty well in the postseason, too. Yeah, that's probably just for the respect for him for torturing me for all those years. We'd probably go Justin Verlander.
Yeah. And now, to be fair to Justin Verlander, the reason he doesn't have the record for wins above replacement is, as I mentioned, they did not start collecting it in his first 3 seasons. However, he does have a 71.6 wins above replacement since they started collecting.
And he doesn't get enough credit, especially when he moved to Houston. He kind of reinvented himself as a pitcher.
Yeah.
The fastball velocity wasn't the same, so he learned new ways. He truly became, instead of just a thrower. I mean, he was always great stuff, but really locating it, knowing how to work through a ball game, when to save. So I think just the fact that he's been able to be this dominant over this long stretch of time and not fall off. Like Chris Sale, we saw fall off. He had some arm problems, and Verlander's been able to keep it up. So I give him a lot of props for that, just the longevity of how long he's been good.
Yeah, absolutely. And he also married Kate Upton, so congratulations to him on winning at life.
Bonus, yeah.
So, Jim, what about you? What's your thoughts on this? Who's your bell cow?
Verlander.
Yeah.
Just because I've had more experiences with him in the postseason with the Detroit Tigers, and of course, Kate Upton is a double plus. So yeah, Verlander. But yeah, you can honestly say that he played against better offenses in the AL than Kershaw did in the National League at the time, and he shut them down, whoever he played. So I have to get the edge up Verlander right now.
All right, fair enough. Now let's. I do want to remind you, just for the sake of reminding you, Scherzer and Verlander did share the same staff for all of their Cy Young award-winning seasons, by the way, which is a very unique thing. They transitioned between Cy Young between both of them, so that is a very unique aspect to their. Oh, sorry, through Max Scherzer's first and both of Justin Verlander's. Scherzer also went on to win 2 with the Nationals. The only one to win one in both of these leagues, by the way, between these 3.
Did Verlander win a Cy Young in Houston?
No.
Or is it both in Detroit?
Oh, actually, yes. 2019 would have been Houston. So yeah.
Okay.
One in Houston and one in Detroit. So yeah.
Okay.
But very unique thing that they shared the same starting rotation, and they were both Cy Young winners while they were both there. So it's very unique. Jimmy, what about you? Who's your bell cow between these 3?
Honestly, I was thinking about it, and it's interesting we're having this conversation about who's going to be the next one of these guys when one of the awards that goes into the conversation is one of the older players that we were talking about, Cy Young awards. So that's kind of how I was thinking about it in my head. The one that makes the most sense for me to talk about in 30 plus years as a pitcher who was the best in the league won a Kershaw award, I would go with Clayton Kershaw. It makes sense. He's got the stats to prove it. He's got a championship now. I think his championship is more warranted than the one Verlander has. Even if he did win one, I don't even know if he won one in Houston, if he was there at that time. But I think that finally winning in the postseason and the consistency, like you guys, Jim and Mitch have a lot of, history with AL Central teams and everything like that. I watched Clayton Kershaw his entire career being in Colorado. He dominated our division for that long. So I would go with Clayton Kershaw out of those 3, Verlander, Scherzer, and Kershaw.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, look, I love all 3 of them. I'll agree with all you guys on that. But I think the one that's tormented me the most has been Clayton Kershaw, but Justin Verlander is no slouch. You talk about just a guy who's a stud on and off the field. Justin Verlander has it all going for him right now. As you mentioned, Mitch, he reinvented himself, and that's something that pitchers nowadays, it's an art that has been lost. You talk about Greg Maddux having to change his style because he wasn't a fireball pitcher. He was a paint the corners pitcher. So he invented the style of moving his thumb on his 2-seam fastball to adjust the spin and rotation that the ball would have. And that's something very similar that Justin Verlander picked up as he grew up idolizing Nolan Ryan, who, by the way, also Nolan Ryan pitched into his 40s, first to ever do so and be that big of a name. So very ironic there. But I do want to pose a question to you guys. Unfortunately, we did lose Jose Fernandez early on in his career. He was an absolute phenom. He had the stats in progression at that point in time in his career to rival that of Nolan Ryan at that point in time in his career. He was on that path very quickly, very fast. His numbers, he was actually a lot further ahead than Nolan Ryan was. Will we ever see a pitcher that is like Jose Fernandez again? As far as just an absolute phenom putting up stats from the very moment he comes onto the major league stage. No question he's going to be a top-end starter. No question he's going to be where he's going to be, whether he's going to throw no-hitters. Jose Fernandez, from day one, he was a starter, and he was a number 1 starter for the Marlins team. It was zero doubt. Will we ever see another pitcher like that, or has pitching become such a minutely managed part of the game that we won't see it. And Jim, I want to start with you.
I think the analytics of the game is starting to invade how teams prepare for opponents, and we might never see another Jose Fernandez. But then again, we got some studs coming out of college, especially down the SEC territory, that you're seeing opening day starters as seniors right now. Not even seniors, juniors. They leave before their senior year. They get into minor leagues and 20, like it seems like a blink of an eye, they're in the majors. It just comes if the kid's hot on fire, and if the major league team needs a pitcher, but it's very hard to replicate what the Marlins did with Jose Fernandez. Now that with analytics into the game and how batters approach different pitchers, now it just depends on what game, what series, and if it's a good time to call the person up to see if he can become that pitcher. But you can't rule it out. There's so many talented players in college and overseas that can become the next Jose Fernandez. So never lose hope. Well, I'm not counting it out. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to also mention Zach Willard was a guy who was being considered as being one of those next big arms when he first came up. He was rocked in his first 3 starts, sent back to minor league as basically fodder. He had like a 40 ERA at one point in time in his first 5 starts, and was sent to the minors to just basically be cow fodder for any time they got a blowout type of or a fill-in role. But now he has reinvented himself into a relief pitcher, so that is something to consider about that. But Mitch, what's your thoughts on this one? Will we ever see a young pitcher like Jose Fernandez again?
I think it's possible just for the fact that you see all these guys now and almost all of them throw upper 90s. Like you'll even see, like you look up and down a roster, take the White Sox, for example, because I watch a lot of them. One of the last guy in the bullpen is Jose Ruiz, who was like the last guy to make the team. Not like a great pitcher. He throws like 99 easily. There was a guy, this guy in the Indians, Class A. What was his last name? He throws like 100 miles an hour easily too, and he got sent back down last year. So they're trying to develop him. So just because of the fact that the guys coming out of college and high school have they're bigger, stronger, throw harder, the stuff we see nowadays is ridiculous compared to any years past. I think the trajectory that the ways the league's going with pitching and all the technology that goes into it, I think you'll definitely. It's very possible to see someone come up that is just as talented. I don't think we've seen anyone like Jose Fernandez yet, but I would definitely not rule it out.
All right. Yeah, see, it's tough with those type of phenoms like Jose Fernandez was. It's because we label them phenom because he is a phenom. It's just so rare that you see a lot of guys that throw upper 90s and 100, but do they have the same placement, speed control? That's the big question that you'll see with a lot of these young guys coming up. Like I think of Carlos Martinez for the Cardinals and how he just fastball's out of this world, has zero control over his off speed. So that's what I think of when I think of these young guys, or maybe Julio Teheran when he was with the Braves, same problem. Then he reinvented himself. Now these are the Royals, but still same issues. But Jimmy, what about you? What are your thoughts on this one?
I think that there could be another Jose Fernandez, but the one thing that made him special too was that he had an air of desperation about him because the way that he grew up and the way that he got to the situation that he was in. And I think, thinking back on it, and I don't know why, but I do like to watch the game that the Marlins played honoring him and D. Gordon hitting that leadoff home run. It's just a nice, not a nice moment, but it's a cool moment in sports that you're able to have. So I think that he I don't know if they'll be on the same level as Jose Fernandez was because he needed to succeed not only for himself but for his family. But obviously there's enough talent in some of these guys, and there's obviously more prospects than any of us know what to do with. That's why the MLB is able to do what they're able to do, run 3 different levels of minor leagues plus summer ball and the wood bat leagues. Like there's plenty of prospects. So I'm sure there's another guy like that out there. It's going to take the right set of circumstances to become the next Jose Fernandez type player though.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Now to take away from pitchers, or Mitch, did you want to add anything?
No, the only thing I was going to say, it's rare with him too, because a lot of times you'll see, like, you take like a Michael Kopech, for example, or a lot of these guys will start in the bullpen, or even Chris Sale is a perfect example. He started in the bullpen a couple of years and then worked his way to like the number 1 starter. Or Jose Fernandez is what's rare with him. He came up to the MLB right away, and you're the ace. Yeah. Here's the ball every 5th day. Go get him. Like there's no easing in process. So I guess that is the one thing that you have to factor in, where it's going to be very difficult to see another Jose Fernandez.
Yeah, exactly. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he's the youngest starting pitcher to ever start a game in the majors. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was like 18 in some days, or oh no, sorry, Jim Darrington was 16 when he decided when he was the first pitcher. So I don't think that's legal anymore. But very close on that one. But now, flipping it to the other side of the at bat, if you will. Jay Bruce, as I mentioned earlier, decided he will retire. Now, he was number 5 in the active home run leaderboard at only 319 home runs. And I say only 319 home runs because you look at the top, it's 700 plus. And then it's very quickly jumps down to 319 being 5th in the active leaderboard. Right behind him is Giancarlo Stanton with 314. And just in front of him is Cano at 421, with Pujols leading all active hitters at 663, and Cabrera at 488, and Nelson Cruz 421. All 4 of the active home run leaders are now over the age of 30 or 38 or older. We were just talking about pitchers. Is there a chance for pitchers to be this way? Now, hitters, I mean, we look at these hitters, we look at the 700 numbers. We'll start with just Pujols. Is Pujols going to hit 700 before retiring? And I want to go to our brand new power hitter in the group, in Mitch. And Mitch is this one. What do you think? Do you think Pujols has the chance of hitting 700 before retiring?
He has a chance, but I have a sneaking suspicion that this is going to be one of his last years, because I feel like when that contract's up, it's going to be a very tough sell for him to get another one. He only needs 37 more, though. So I believe, if I did my math correctly, yeah, so 37 more. He could get that done in 2 seasons. Yeah, I'm going to say yes. He's a good hitter. Some team will give him one contract for like a farewell tour. I think he can get it. We'll go yes.
That's what I was about to ask. Will it be for the Angels, do you think?
Probably not. Although, what he does have going for him right now is he has a lot of protection in that lineup. It is like kind of, especially the top half is very scary. There's not a whole lot of places for a pitcher to hide, with Ohtani 2, Trout 3, Rendon, and then even Upton's been hitting pretty well. So I think it's possible. I'll say no. We'll say yes. I think he can get it with the Angels. I think he can.
All right, so the Angels give him a 1-year extension for a farewell tour for him to hit 700. All right, I like it. Jimmy, what about you? Do you think Pujols will hit 700 before retiring?
I feel like he's going to try and make it that way, like try and extend. I think, I unlike Mitch, I don't think it's going to be on his first farewell contract. It would probably have to be like 3rd or 4th. That's how he just doesn't hit home runs at the same kind of clip, because not many people do that when they're that old. It's difficult, especially with the way that Pujols did it. It wasn't the swing angle. It wasn't all the analytical stuff. He was a tried and true power hitter for a long time. And when that's what you have to fall back on when you get older, it doesn't come the same way that it does. And when you can get these 2-3 home run games possibly at his age, but then when you have to take 3 days off following that outing because your body just can't hold up, that's where I think it's going to get difficult. So he might get hot, might make it close, and probably make me look like I'm going to be an idiot, but I would be, I'm not too worried about saying no, he's probably going to finish before he hits 700 home runs.
If you look at his past couple of seasons, he's had 23, not including the shortened season last year and obviously this year, but 23 homers, 19, 23, 31. So I think and that was without not as much protection in the lineup. The lineup's a lot better now. So I think, I think he could. It's not out of the question for him to get hit like say 20 this year, and then he only needs 17. He could get that done in the season. So I think.
Yeah, and as you mentioned,
I'll hedge my bet. I'll hedge my bet and say that there is the chance that he'll get hot, because he was a great player at one point, but I'm going to stand by, I think no.
All right. Now, obviously, you did mention the 4 or 5 farewell tour contracts. Is one of those contracts going to be with the Yankees?
No,
probably not. He already got the Yankee money in Anaheim. I don't think that he needs to go up to, because if he signs one of those contracts in Brooklyn, he's going to get torn to shreds. when Mitch brought up farewell contract, I was thinking St. Louis automatically.
That would, yeah.
Just one more trip around those bases.
And if they ever brought the international DH across, bring it over to both leagues.
Would be kind of a roadblock for them if there's no DH. There's no way that it's coming back there. They already have one old washed up veteran there with Yadier Molina. I don't know if they need two on the roster.
Yeah, true. And now two.
Yadier just broke a record, by the way. He has the most consecutive or most games caught, I think, in a career over the weekend.
He's a freak of nature. Let's just be honest. He's had his own stat we're going to talk about here in a couple weeks. I have planned out, hopefully, unless he breaks another record, because it's just Yachty at this point in time in his career. He just seems to break a record all the time. Now, I do want to point out that Albert Pujols has only ever had 2 seasons, not including the shortened season, of under 20 home runs. That 19 in 2018, where he only played 117 games, and then also he had 17 in 2013, where he only played 99 games. So 2 injury-shortened seasons are the thing stopping him from 20 home runs. Talk about, for lack of a better joke, the machine. He is still the machine even at the age of 41, for sure.
He hit 20 in his sleep. I mean, he's not the same 35, 40 home run hitter he once was, obviously, but I think he'll hit 20 in his sleep this year.
No doubt. Now, Jim, obviously we gotta ask you about it. Do you think Pujols will hit 700?
Yes, I do think he's going to hit 700. I think he's going to have his farewell tour in St. Louis, but it's going to be almost like Bernie Mac's Mr. 3000 type. When he gets to I'm happy at 693. I'm happy that I got there. Takes a year off, then gets a 1-year contract with St. Louis, and he comes back and he finally breaks the record. So it's opposite of Bernie Mac's Mr. 3000. But I still think he has a chance, like what Mitch said. He has the stats over the last couple of years that will catch that record. But I think if the contract ends in L.A., he's going to take a year off, then contemplate retirement. It's like no one wants to sign me. Then he gets the one last hurrah in St. Louis or a team that has a DH that allows him on, and he gets there and breaks the record.
Yeah. And it is worth mentioning that after this season, the MLB will reapproach the DH rule for potential reinstatement into the NL for the long term, as there are over 50% majority teams in the NL asking for the DH to be brought in. Obviously, none of those guys have a Madison Bumgarner or a Clayton Kershaw on their team, or a big old Bartolo Colon as far as a hitting pitcher goes. So they obviously don't know what a hitting pitcher can do for you. But yeah, that is something worth mentioning with Albert Pujols. The potential return to St. Louis after this contract ends in a year could be very interesting if they get a DH over there. But now to the grander question of this. Will we ever see another hitter go over 700? Or has this launch angle become too much of an issue that it's either a strikeout or a home run and they don't last long enough because they end up striking out too much because there aren't any pure contact hitters anymore?
Well, I think you're paying guys based on power. So, the contact thing is not – I think to answer your initial question, yes, just because of the launch angle thing, everyone's trying to hit home runs now. And there's a lot of times they'll be paying a power hitter where you don't care that they're hitting 217 as long as they're giving you 40 home runs. Like Todd Frazier's 2 seasons with the White Sox was below 230 both times. But White Sox fans were happy to have him because he had 40 homers both years and close to 100 RBIs. So there's certain guys you're just paying to hit home runs, and the strikeouts are all part of it. I mean, Adam Dunn's another guy. That was his whole career. There'd be a strikeout walk or a home run. You take the good with the bad. But I think, we'll easily see. Well, not easily because 700's a lot. But I think, we'll see another one.
Yeah, because right now, like I mentioned, Stanton is the youngest of the active list, and he's sitting at 6 overall, and he has 314 total home runs, and he's 31. So he has I think it's safe to say, playing in the AL, he has another 9 years ahead of him. As long as he stays healthy. Yeah. But Jimmy, what about you? What do you think? Another home run hitter to hit 700 or?
Yeah. There's a guy the guy right close behind Stanton. I just looked up. Trout's at 306 and he's 29. So he's starting to, he's always been able to hit home runs, but I noticed the highlights of him hitting home runs kind of shows up a little bit more. And that lineup's starting to show a little bit more pop too. So I think he might, depending on how much longer he plays, because he's still a phenom in the field. He still has that DH era to go through a part of his career. So I think he'll be playing for a while. I wouldn't put that out of the realm of possibility for him. But of the other guys that, are active, Stanton maybe, but Stanton is I kind of agree with you. Boomer bust doesn't bode well for huge home run totals. It's very impressive home runs. Every single time Giancarlo Stanton gets a hold of one and actually, puts the bat all the way through the ball, it's impressive. But I don't think that it bodes well for the 50 home run, 50 home runs a season clips or anything like that. I know that's an exaggeration. It's just difficult for me to see. I would only put my faith in Trout. That's the only guy that I could see currently playing that maybe gets there.
Yeah, that's a safe bet. I mean, Mike Trout is what Mike Trout is. And I don't think anybody wants to bet against Mike Trout because he's proven countless times to just he will prove you wrong just for the enjoyment of the factor. He's got a little bit too much of that New Jersey in him. He likes to prove people wrong. Now, Jim, what about you? Is there going to be another hitter to hit 700 in this current league of baseball?
Yes, Mike Trout and Carlos Stanton are only two, or Giancarlo Stanton or whatever. But those are the only two guys. But beyond that, no. Unless Mookie Betts catches on fire, unless JD Martinez starts hitting bombs every single day, no one's going to get to 700 as Stanton and Trout is. But honestly, I think we might be starting to get into the era where we may never see 700 again because of the analytics and the coaches, how they're pitching all these power hitters. So I think Stanton and Trout are the only ones left, and we might be seeing the end. Maybe we'll be lucky to see people get 500. But will it count it out? No. But honestly, right now for Stanton, he just needs to learn how to hit the ball right now, and Trout's just being Trout. Also, there's no pressure in Anaheim. They don't have the championship mentality over there. They're not that pressure to win it. And New York is completely different. And plus Aaron Judge maybe, but it's Trout or Stanton are only two, in my opinion, right now. But besides from that, I don't think no one's going to get to 700 in the next 10 years.
And I think Stanton too would be a lot closer if he wasn't always plagued with injuries, because he's missed time with the injuries. As for Mike Trout, what he has going for his advantage is he hits the ball hard a lot. And so when you hit the ball hard, sometimes it'll carry out. You're not even trying to swing for a home run. So with all the launch angle stuff, I know some guys are trying to hit homers, but really if you just put a good swing on it, you never know what can happen. So I think that's one of the few things that's one of the things Trout has going for him that a lot of other hitters do not.
And one other thing to notice about Carlo is that if he strikes out the first at bat, he's done for the rest of the day. He won't hit anything else. It's the mentality that he has since he's been in New York. He strikes out the first time, he's done. You might get a base hit from him, and he just needs to get out of that mind. He's too damn good of a talented player to be 0 for 9 and getting booed every time your name is stated in that stadium. And of course, New York is New York. They want to win. That's the Yankees, and he's going to get booed out that stadium unless he learns how to put, get a base hit, get a double, stop swinging for the short porch in the right field. Just get a base hit. The home runs will come.
Now, do you think this is kind of a side question here? But do you think the market is too big for Stanton? Do you think the New York media market is too much pressure for him to handle, and that is factoring into it?
Yes, I think when he went to Miami to New York, he was the biggest thing, because I know the Dodgers, the Red Sox, and the Yankees were going big after him in the free agency, and he went to the Yankees. He thought he was going to, be the next superstar, and he realized that in New York, if you're not winning, you ain't shit. And he's feeling the pressure right now because it's been, 5 years now that they've had World Series caliber teams, and they failed to even crack the World Series or get in the World Series and not even perform. So it's the pressure, and it's hard to win in major markets. That is Boston, LA, and New York, no matter who you are. No matter if you wear that jersey, the pressure's on, no matter who you are.
No doubt, yeah. Now there is I just want to throw this out there just as an interesting stat from perusing, all of this today, and as I mentioned with Casmar coming back after 12 years without being in the majors. Over that time span, Nelson Cruz, as I mentioned, he is the number 3 active leader in home runs. Out of his 421 home runs, he launched 401 of them in the absence of Casmar from the major leagues. So, most prolific home run hitter over that span of time, by the way, by about 50 home runs. So if maybe he started hitting home runs earlier in his career than when he was 28, 27, he might have a chance to hit that 700 mark. But as it is now, he is approaching 40, and well, yeah, I think that's about the end of the career for Nelson Cruz. He still has some pop, but yeah, it's not enough really. And Mike Trout, by the way, last time Casmar was in the majors was still in high school. So it just goes to tell you all that right there. Now, I do want to take this, and this is going to lead us into our final thoughts by Fubo TV, guys. And I do want to start with Jimmy. Jimmy, what is something that's caught your eye over the last week of baseball that you just got to talk about?
I said it last week that the good thing about being a Yankee fan is that the team that you start the season with is very rarely the team that you end the season with. Thinking that, towards the trade deadline, we might start seeing some things happen. I think the Yankees are going to start opening up the books a little bit earlier on, especially being last in the entire American League, and that's the first time since 1968. If there's one fan base that you can't lose for, it's that one. They have all of the love for their history, and they're already pissed off that in between 2010 and 2019, there was no Yankees World Series appearance. The last one was in 2009. That's the first time that happened since like 1912. So I think the Yankees are going to start to be way aggressive in player acquisition and trying to figure this thing out. And I'm a little bit nervous, honestly, as how that's going to happen or how that's going to go, because you can bring in all the players that you want. Depends on how well you use them. And they already have a World Series caliber roster, and they're not using it very well. So I think the Yankees are in for a little bit longer of a season than we intended.
Yeah, and interesting enough, they just announced that DJ LeMahieu will be moving over to first in the meantime, and Rougned Odor, their new acquisition from Texas, is now going to be their everyday second baseman. And fun fact about Odor that I learned from this home run thing, he's tied with Chris Bryant for all-time active leader in the home runs list. Chris Bryant, if anybody remembers him from the Chicago Cubs, is still playing. And Rougned Odor, little Rougned Odor, has the same amount of home runs as him. So that just goes to show you launch angle and everything else can play a part. So
he packs a punch too. He's got a wallop. Jose Bautista knows that firsthand.
Yeah, he can definitely take a punch too. Bautista can attest to that one as well. Now, Jim, what about you? What is your the thing that grinded your gears this week? What's your final thoughts on this last week of baseball?
Major League Baseball needs to find a way to fix this damn replay system and get umpires that know how to freaking call the games. There was a couple games with the Red Sox this past weekend in Minnesota where the runner's already 10 to 15 feet behind first base, and they call him out when he was clearly safe by give or take 7 inches. And you had the incident in the Phillies and Mets game the other night. It's becoming an issue where we're getting to these replays and we're spending 3, 5, 10 minutes on a replay that should have been called on the spot because of these umps. It's slowing down the game for a league that's supposed to speed up the game. These reviews are surely ruining the game, and it's even the balls and strikes. Even in the White Sox series, I guarantee Mitch, if he's watched the game, these umps are not even calling strikes where they're strikes. The ball's 4 or 5 inches off the plate. Oh, strike! Like really? Like they need to get training. The umps. It's just terrible. This has been a bad season for this. It's almost as bad as when the NFL had the replacement refs. So they need to fix it. They need to fix the replay system. And I can't believe the Major League Baseball hasn't overturned the ruling in the Mets and Phillies game. So yeah, umps, they suck.
Yeah, it was actually the Phillies and Braves.
So yeah, Phillies and Braves. My bad.
And it was Alec Baum did not even come close to touching the plate. To your point, literally. Under every single replay, you see him missing the plate by a good 3 inches of space between him and the plate. It's just absolutely egregious that has not been fixed. And me being from down south like I am, I have a lot of Braves fans in my friend group. And to say that's all I've been hearing about. And that was actually one of my things, if nobody else had mentioned it, to mention on the final thoughts. Because I had so many people tell me, you need to mention this at this point in time. Because they're all Braves fans that need to get that off their plate, if you will. But you know what, Braves fans, you've dealt with enough success. You can deal with a little bit of disappointment in your life. Now, Mitch, it's been a good week for White Sox baseball. It's been a turnaround at least. But what is the thing? What are some of your final thoughts on this last week of baseball?
Well, actually, I kind of want to bring up, I had a final thought, which I'll get to in a second. But as far as the umpire thing goes, while the umpires have been bad, I'm not ready to like completely overhaul the replay system and get all these like robot umpires in and everything. I think the umpires are like part of what makes baseball great. Like, I love the arguments. I am all for it. I think that's entertainment value. And it's the part of the human element that, like, you know, you're going to get a call one day it goes your way, and then you're going to get one that doesn't go your way. I think that's one of the great things about baseball. I like the human element of it. And I think if you replace it with robots, it would be a mistake and would take an exciting thing out of it that baseball wouldn't need. I just think, I don't know. And does it take long with the reviews as it is right now? There are some things to fix, but like, I'm not going to completely trash umpires yet, just because I know how difficult that job is. And that's one of the few aspects of the game I do like, is the fact that, like, hey, yeah, sometimes they're going to make a mistake. It's part of the game. You got to move on. But as far as my final thought, the Chicago Cubs, they need to blow up that roster. It is over. I think it's gotten to the point where these fans need to realize that 2015 and 16 were kind of the peak years for these guys. And it's not getting any better. I know a lot of Cubs fans were upset that they didn't extend Anthony Rizzo. And I'm starting to think that maybe Jed Hoyer, they kind of knew what they were doing right there. Because like $73 million is a lot of money for a guy that's currently hitting 180. They've been terrible with runners in scoring position. Their offensive stretch through the first 10 games of the season. And this is not just for the first 10 games. Like, it's the worst offensive stretch in Cubs franchise history. Not in any 10 stretch of games. Not just this opening start of the games. Like, over their 100-year history, the worst offensive Cubs team, which I think is crazy. So I think might be time to start selling off parts there and rebuilding, because it's not working. They're not as good as everyone thinks they are.
Yeah, as I mentioned, some people don't even remember who Chris Bryant is, who was MVP candidate.
He wanted a huge contract from Scott Boras. Boy, those teams, they dodged the bullet there, because I know there's a couple teams that probably would have overpaid for him, but he's just right now a slightly above average. Like, he's a good player, but he's not like an elite. You don't look at Chris Bryant and be like, oh yeah, that's an elite third baseman anymore.
Yeah,
it's crazy to be talking about a former MVP like that.
Exactly, and I was about to ask, do you think it's a situation where it's just so bad the environment he's in, or him and Rizzo, I should say, or is it one of those things where it's just kind of what you see their career ending up like, no matter where they go next?
I mean, I don't know if I want to blame the environment, because one, they have a great fan base there. They got, in Chicago, it's a very hitter-friendly ballpark, and they've gone through 3 damn hitting coaches already. So at some point, you're the problem. Like, there's only so much these guys can do. I know they blame the hitting coaches, they blame Joe Madden, and it's not working. They're just not, not at that point of the career anymore where they're the elite players they once were. And I like Anthony Rizzo. He's one of the few Cubs that I like. I think it's crazy that these Cubs are like, oh, we got lowballed. It's like, well, you're not paying him for past performance like anymore. Like, you gotta, I'm not dishing out an $100 million contract to a guy that's hitting 182 right now.
Absolutely. No, I definitely agree with you on that. It's a big part of baseball too. Sometimes we do reward players, especially those second, third contracts, for past performance, not current performance. And that sometimes comes back to bite a lot of teams in the butt. And I'm looking at you, Mets. You have done it so many times.
And that's why sorry to keep going up. The Fernando Tatis contract was kind of smart, though, because you're paying for future performance instead of like an Albert Pujols contract. It's like, oh, you did all this. We're paying you all this money, and now look how it works out for him. It never really works out. Paying for future performance is so much smarter. Plus, you can get a discount on him, too. Like, I know the White Sox do this all the time, like they did with Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez. They paid him before they even played a game, because they're thinking, yeah, we know these guys are going to be good. So you're getting money. This is your first big contract. You're happy. And we know in 5 years, this is going to be a steal. We're not going to be paying you what you're worth. So it works out for both sides.
Yeah, the Giants did the same thing with Buster Posey, thankfully. And that was before the broken ankle. They paid him before the broken ankle. And then obviously once the broken ankle happened, it was like, oh, well, okay, that changes things. But yeah, the Giants did the same thing there, because it's a smart move to pay for future performance. And maybe you overpay for future performance, but you're still underpaying what you would do if they succeed, be like you expect them to. And speaking of guys succeeding, I do have actually 2 topics I need to get to. But number one, obviously, is my actual final thought on the Giants, and this is my own personal one. Alex Wood returned for the Giants. If you guys remember Alex Wood, he was a former Cy Young candidate, has dealt with some injuries, came back, the lefty starts 1-0 on his career. Absolutely fantastic game. 5 scoreless innings, 3 hits. Didn't issue a walk and struck out 4. The guy's been known as a kind of odd figure when he throws the ball, if you will, and he continued that a little bit less herky-jerky than he normally is, but still, nonetheless, it looks really weird. He shows the ball behind his back, and he comes back around. But he looks good. He might be the future ace in San Francisco, as he is still only 28 and in the prime of his career. But then on top of that, guys, we did have just Jackie Robinson Day just recently, and it's worth mentioning Jackie Robinson and all the great things he did for baseball. And all around, he's one of the only player to be retired his number in all Major League Baseball stadiums. And obviously that's a big deal, having Jackie Robinson Day every year. So watching everybody wear 42 and represent the greatness and unity that can be baseball is just one of those fantastic things. And in a year where we're celebrating Negro Leagues coming back into Major League Baseball history, it is even more important that it is worth mentioning Jackie Robinson Day and all the great things he did for baseball. So I have to get that out there, guys, because I love Jackie Robinson Day. Seeing everybody wear 42 with no names on the back is one of the coolest things. I don't care that, you don't see your favorite player's name on the back. I don't care. Jackie Robinson 42 is still this day one of my favorite movies to ever watch. And we talk about that movie and the actor who played Jackie, he did a fantastic job as well, Chadwick Boseman, and that just movie summed up every reason why I love supporting everything about Jackie Robinson Day is because of everything he went through to get to this point. It's been an absolutely fantastic thing for baseball because really baseball, as we mentioned, is a very slow developing game, and if it wasn't for Jackie Robinson, we'd be even slower. But it's worth mentioning out there, everybody. Let's just get that off my plate. But until next week, guys, I want to give everybody their time to plug their shows and then we'll get out of here. And Mitch, let's start with you for Dorm Room Dispute. Where can everybody find you? What time do you show up on the network? And what all type of projects you guys was working out?
Yeah, we got a new show time on Unhinged now. We are Thursdays at 5. The same 5 o'clock time slot we had on Wednesday. Just move it to Thursday. Our last episode, we talked a lot on Carlos Rodon no-hitter, which is good. You can also, if you're still interested in the Carlos Rodon stuff, just wrote a bunch of articles for that this week. So you can check that out on our Twitters at Mitch Kaminsky99 or at Dorm Room Dispute. And upcoming episode, we're going to be previewing the NFL draft, little mock drafts where we have going. So yeah, exciting time for football fans coming up here.
Yeah, most definitely. I feel like all of us are about working on some draft stuff right now, and I can't wait for your guys' mock draft to come out because it's fun comparing everybody on the network's mock draft because I think at this point, Jim, you're the only one that hasn't released a mock draft yet. Get on that, my guy. Mitch, I can't wait for that. And as you mentioned, everybody go check him out at Dorm Room Dispute. And that's Thursday at 5 p.m. If you guys don't know already, this show comes on Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So he follows this show, and my show predates his, but I'll get to that one in a minute. But Jim, what about you? How does everybody find you? And what, are you going to release a mock draft soon?
I'm not going to release. No, I'm not going to release mock draft. With the first pick, the NFL draft, Jaguars select Trevor Lawrence, and that's the only thing that matters. You can find
Zach
me.
Wilson.
Oh, okay. All right, don't let me get this started. This
Justin
is a baseball
Fields.
podcast. Nope. Fields is going to the Jets. Mac Jones is going to the Patriots. You can find me, the J Show, on Twitter at the J Show. You can find Carlos at Wrestling Move G. We're on Mondays and Fridays at 4 p.m. And ETN will be 25th overall to the Jaguars. And that's my mock drive.
Why are they going to take ETN when they already have James Robinson? Oh, well, I'm never going to understand you, Jim. You have some crazy picks in the world of things. And I'm the guy who has a thing called Kelsey's Island for cover 6. And I'm still calling your picks weird. So what do I know? But you know what, guys? Go check out Jim, even though he's not going to be giving you a mock draft, because as disappointing as it is, they still have a lot of entertainment. Unless he starts talking about New York, then it's okay. If
that's the way it's best, man.
No, it's not. As a guest on the show in which you did go off on New York, I can tell you, no, not really. But we love to have fun with Jim, and it's a lot of entertaining. And Jimmy, as I mentioned, talking about New York, Jimmy being the Yankees fan. Jimmy, tell everybody how to find you guys over at Far Under the Bench and what you guys are working on next.
Yep, you can catch the premieres of our new episodes Wednesdays from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. We're based out of Denver, my co-host Nico and I. So we get together every week and we talk not just about the Denver sports, but we do give them a little bit more love than what they get in the national media. And you can follow us at FEOTB Pod, all of our social medias. We have a TikTok where we post clips. There's a couple clips of me golfing on there, which it's entertaining. That's how I'm going to put that. We also have a YouTube channel, Far End of the Bench. Be sure to subscribe there. We just released our men's rec league team highlights and our golfing highlights from last week as well. And then we post clips throughout the week. And then, we got some draft stuff coming up, but we're going to be doing it a little bit differently. That you'll have to tune in to the episode this week because that's when we'll explain it. But we got a lot of stuff for the draft, and then also the big UFC event coming up Saturday. We're going to have a section dedicated to that with Rev coming back again. So a lot of stuff for the Far End of the Bench with Nico and myself. We also, Kelsey and Jim also contribute to the blogs for the website, unhingedsn.com. So be sure to check those out. But at FEOTB Pod, basically that's where you can find everything.
Awesome. I definitely can't wait until see what you guys have ready for the draft and everything like that, because I know we all are getting ready for this, and it's a big moment for every general sports podcast has to do something about football. I feel like at this point in time, we're all getting ready for it. And us over here at High Low Sports, if you guys don't know how to find us, we are at high_low_sports on Twitter. You can also find us on YouTube at just search High Low Sports, and we come on Thursdays 2 p.m. Eastern time. So it goes High Low Sports, High Heater, and then it goes Dorm Room Dispute, and then it goes Far End of the Bench, and then it goes High Low Sports again. That's our order on Thursdays, guys. So you're going to be stuck with us from 2 p.m. Eastern time until quite literally 8 p.m. Eastern time, and it's okay. Accept it. Be a part of it. You guys have already done it 1 week. Let's keep going every week. We love you guys being a part of it. As for what we have going on, we have a lot going on the next couple weeks. We'll start on Monday. We just have our big board releasing, top 50 draft players. We are going to be wrapping up our NFL draft extravaganza with week 4 of the NFL draft extravaganza, which covers the NFC, AFC East, followed by UFC 261 coverage on Colorcast. We'll be live commentating the UFC 261 event. High Low Sports Mock Draft will release next week, and it's actually going to release before it does on Unhinged, just because we will be at the draft on Thursday, so we want to get our mock draft out there earlier in the week, and that's going to release to our anchor page on Monday. And as I mentioned, it will come out Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern time on Unhinged Sports like normal. And then that afternoon, we will be on location in Cleveland for the NFL draft, doing a Colorcast live. And we're actually going to be doing a charity stream for Kicks for Kids Cleveland. And it's part of Colorcast competition. Basically, we get 200 listeners. They donate $1,000 to a charity of our choice. And the charity of our choice is Kicks for Kids Cleveland. And we'll have a whole thing about it. We'll have a whole lead up into that. And we'll have some special guests on the show as well during the Colorcast event and giving some live coverage there. And then we'll be in Cleveland all weekend. You'll see DJ run the 40. You'll see me try to kick a field goal. You'll probably see a couple verticals. And you might see a double doink or two from the field goal attempts. Who knows? It'll be pretty entertaining. For those that love the double doink, Mitch, I'm sorry.
Ugh, terrible.
But that does it for us today, guys. Until next week, we appreciate you guys tuning in. And we will see you next time.